Hello, I am Interweb Studios and today we will listen to stories about times a normally chill person lost their cool. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment if you are a naturally cool person or a hothead. Alrighty, sit back and enjoy. One of my teachers in high school was the calmest dude. Never yelled, never told kids off, would just laugh and smile and wait for us all to calm down and then continue with his teaching. One day we must have been particularly rowdy and we weren't calming down like we usually did. He couldn't get a word in edgeways. I could see him getting increasingly frustrated and eventually he just bellowed "shut up" and the entire class was shocked into silence. He never had to do it again LMAO. I was chilling at a friend's house as a kid. His dad was the chillest, nicest guy. That day, my friend's mom, also super nice, was across the street talking to the neighbor about something that I can no longer recall. Neighbor was one of those guys who never respected common etiquette, music blaring, parking his shitty boat in front of other people's house, cars parked on the lawn. The neighbor started screaming at THR mom and we all went out on the stoop to see what was happening. As soon as we got outside, the guy called my friend's mom a cunt. Well, my friend's dad heard that and went full Hulk mode. He ran screaming across the street and just ducking decked the guy and crouched over him shouting warnings and threats. Took a while for his wife to calm him down. I don't think any of them had ever seen him react to something in that way, maybe even the dad himself. Warnings and threats after conking him in the face. This is exactly how villains should be explaining their evil plans. Any last word, Mr. Bond? Why don't why, gunshot. JK. I had a friend who was in his 60s, a functioning alcoholic, but he was the most calm and composed guy the first have ever known. He never used to raise his voice or swear. Everything was done with meticulous precision. He once explained to me that if you use vulgar language and shout all the time, then you will have nowhere to go when you really do get angry. I had worked with him for about 3 years, never heard him raise his voice or swear before. The week before he had been shafted on his pay and the manager promised to get it sorted by Friday. Friday rolled around and it had not been sorted. So when my friend walked up to the manager in the open office and declared loudly, "Where the duck is my money? You promised this would be resolved." The whole office went silent and the look of dread on the manager's face was haunting. The money was in his account by the end of the day. That was him losing his shit.
Where's my money? You gonna give me my money? Where's my money, man?
I worked as a line cook with a chef who I became really good friends with. Really chill dude, easy going, and actually super fun to cook with. He taught me most of what I know about cooking and I owe him a lot for my success. Never really saw him get mad until one day. We were getting slammed during busy night and one of the servers said something that really ticked him off. Not sure if I ever heard what it was. But next thing I knew he had sent the deep fryer basket flying at Mach 1 across the kitchen, nearly missing the dish kit and shattering a light bulb. He stormed off and 5 minutes later after a smoke break, came back and casually continued cooking as if nothing had happened. He apologized about it the next day and we never talked about it again. The restaurant industry is a stressful place.
Throw me the ball, let's fucking play around us.
Oh yeah, when the servers start asking stupid questions it's very easy to get pissed. There was one particular time when Matt got super glue in his eye while on the line. Trying to continue to control the chaos of the kitchen, he goes into the back and you hear 3 loud bangs up against the side of the building. Dude had a sledgehammer he swung when he had so much pent-up anger. That wall still has all the damage from him 5 years later. When I was in my late teens I was financially irresponsible and borrowed money from my grandparents to move out of my mom's house. We made a plan on how I would pay it back in installments and I only missed 2 payments. With each one I called my granddad and asked if it was okay. He was always cool about it. One day I got a call from him and he was livid. Screaming at me on the phone and I could hear my grandmother crying in the background. He was the angriest I've ever heard anyone in my life and I was terrified. He wanted to know why I hadn't made the payment that month, but I was sure I had. It turns out I had accidentally set the automated payment to be drawn from the wrong account and it hadn't done it. It was an honest mistake on my part, and I explained that to him. I transferred the money immediately and he instantly calmed down. I later found out he had become an alcoholic after he quit smoking, and he would talk to my grandmother like that regularly when no one was around. I used to see this woman in my building every day. Very friendly. We always checked on each other's lives. We had lunch a few times over the years. It was friendly to a certain degree. A couple years passed. She was much older than me. One day, riding the elevator, she told me that she was saying goodbye. I said I was sorry to see her go and asked why. She said she was retiring that day. I asked if her office was throwing a party or if she was celebrated. She turned to me and her face contorted into an image of rage. She clenched her teeth and said she didn't tell anyone in her office, including her bosses. She only told the HR person last week. This was her last day and she was never returning to see or talk to anyone in her office again. It takes a lot to make my mom yell. On the rare occasion she did yell, it still felt like she had self-control. Like she yelled on purpose, because there was a reason to yell, like she needed to be that loud for us to hear us, or one of the kids needed to learn to never run into traffic again. But one morning when we were teenagers, my brother was being really difficult. And my very sweet, soft-spoken mother yelled, "God damn it, Sean," and threw a butter knife down so hard it stuck, 1/4 inch deep, in oak hardwood floor. Against the grain. I can still hear the noise it made. We were all very well behaved for the rest of the day. I did eventually ask my mom why she did that. Her explanation was that she felt she was too angry to hold a knife, even a butter knife, and was trying to get it out of her hand before she did something stupid. This is not my story but my dad's. Growing up, his best friend Leaf was a quiet, shy guy that was a bit socially awkward. In school he wasn't physically bullied, but this one kid teased him constantly. This would have been late 50s, early 60s, so kids were expected to just tough it out. My dad would usually confront the kid, but one day a girl runs up to him and says that Leaf and the kid are fighting. My dad runs over to save Leaf, but when he breaks through the circle he finds the bully flat on his back. Leaf sitting on his chest, holding him by the ears and smashing his head into the pavement over and over.
I got you! Go! Go!
It's all just an act.
Stop! Stop! He's already dead.
My dad tackles him, wrestles him to the ground and screams at him, asking what he's doing. The thing that stayed with me from that story was how he described it. It was like there was nothing in there. I felt like I could see the back of his skull through his eyes. Luckily they were kids, so the damage was serious but limited. The bully escaped with stitches and a concussion, and Leaf had to talk to the school psychologist. My dad and Leaf stayed best friends, and when I met him as an adult he was still quiet but less shy and awkward. Man, my grandma has a similar thing. This boy was a couple years older than she was and he was constantly picking on her. He's riding his bike home from school one day and he rides past her and he's shouting at her and she knocks him right off his bike and beat the shit out of him. My sweet lil granny. The neighbor that saw it said he was proud as shit that she beat the snot out of this shitty kid, lol. I think it was the start of my grandma's bad bitch streak, because not much later, she started street racing. She was allegedly a sweet little girl, but man, I think she must have had a mean streak in her. I used to do seasonal work sorting tax returns. Like, 500 people in a warehouse-size room sorting through returns, stacking them in boxes, etc. This one guy on my team, huge dude, a gentle giant, really nice. Suddenly one day he smashes the table he's working at, then flips a big box full of paperwork. It flew over my head and 20 feet away. He threw the table out of his way, then stormed out. Turns out he was getting his paycheck garnished for something or other. If the garnishment was for back taxes, the irony of the situation would have enraged me too. My mom. We had what we now refer to as the Jerry Springer Christmas, when I was 7 or so. One aunt hated her sister-in-law and started screaming at her. Then shoving started, husbands got involved, then it just continued to devolve from there. My mom went straight into mediator mode and tried to calm everyone down, but it wasn't working. She decided to come check on us kids and found my cousin and me holding each other and sobbing because we were scared. The next thing I hear is her scary mom voice screaming over everyone, "Listen here, you motherduckers. My kid is in there crying on Christmas because her family can't keep their shit together for the one day a year we all see each other. You're gonna march your asses into that room single file and apologize to each kid individually. Then you're going to shut the hell up until I get them out of here. We're going to go look at lights, and this family better be the picture of goddamn Christmas joy by the time we get back." My mom never really cussed in front of me and only ever used GD when things were really bad. That side of the family didn't celebrate Christmas for a few years after that. My dad is the most mild-mannered person I have ever met. He is the most composed, level-headed man I know. I once saw him trip in our garage and land in a bucket of nails and screws to realize he had one lodged into his kneecap. He looked over at me and said, "Don't tell you mom, she'll overreact," while he grabbed a pair of pliers and yanked out the screw. But when something happened to my special needs brother, he would get this sparkle in his eye that could scare a Navy SEAL. When I was 8 years old, my parents took my brother and I to eat at a restaurant, which was kind of a big deal because my brother was recently diagnosed with a degenerative physical health issue which was racking up huge medical debts, all while my dad lost his job after getting the bends on a work dive. We went to our favorite Mexican restaurant in town and parked in the handicapped spot nearest the front door. I still remember having an unusually lighthearted time in which I could see my parents' stress levels subside and listen to funny stories about the past. We simply enjoyed a memorable dinner with lots of laughter. Looking back, I realize this was a big expense that my parents probably couldn't afford and sacrifice so we could have a normal night as a family. When we left the restaurant, we found a car parked next to us, not in a parking spot but in the yellow stripes immediately next to our van. Normally this might not be an issue, but my brother is in a wheelchair and we had a folding ramp, not the hydraulic lifts that you see today, but a heavy metal powder-coated ramp. This was a Friday night, so traffic was crazy busy and my parents didn't feel comfortable just backing up into the street to load my brother, so my dad went into the restaurant to see if the manager could find the owner of the car and ask him to move. When my dad emerged from the restaurant, I saw a look that I have never seen before. It was one of focus, determination, and rage. He looked at my mom and told her to get in the car. She just hopped in and said, "I'm okay," in a way that indicated she knew something might go down. He turned to me and said, "Watch this shit." He unfolded the ramp and slammed it on the roof of the car next to us. Then turned to explain that the manager told him, "I'm not responsible for what happens in the parking lot. Why don't you just figure something out?" So he did. To be clear, there were maybe 4 or 5 groups eating in the restaurant. He could have easily asked someone to move. We waited for a minute and the manager came out yelling, "What are you doing? You can't do that." This was when my dad lost it. At this point he picked up my brother's wheelchair with him in it, which weighed about 150,200 pounds, and sat him on the hood of the car while yelling at the manager. He then jumped on the hood of the car and then picked my brother up to put him on the roof of the car, still giving the manager the business. He jumped up to the roof and calmly rolled my brother across the ramp and into our van, told me to get in and calmly told the manager, "I figured something out." Since that day I have never seen anything remotely close to the same level of anger from him. We laugh about the story from time to time and my dad is always quick to say that he overreacted, but I think he reacted just fine. Mechanic I worked with is getting verbally abused by a customer claiming he ripped him off. Guy's going off saying all sorts of racist shit, then stepped up like he was gonna swing. Henry beat him to the punch, literally. Then he calmly walked to the back office and called the cops on himself. My math teacher in middle school. He would even brag about not being angry, and how it was a useless emotion. One day this kid pissed him off so bad he swiped all of the kids' shit off of the table in front of the whole class and kicked him out. One time in high school, a couple bullies were up in this other kid's face. Dude was just sitting there like Anton Chigurh or Private Pile, no expression and staring straight ahead, clearly not hearing a thing. One of the bullies inched closer, and the kid decked him as hard as he could in the face. The bully was knocked to the floor, speechless with his nose bleeding everywhere. The kid then calmly stood up, still with no emotion, calmly packed his things, and made his own way to the principal's office as if nothing at all had happened. It's still one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. It was like right out of a movie. And with that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed the video. Since you have made it this far, you must have enjoyed it. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment anything. And with that, until next time, toodles.